at this point, they would believe in Stuart Skinner anyways. Like, they've seen him be really good. I don't know if the team needs to be reminded, like, oh, yeah, this guy can win and he can play really well. He's done that a lot in the last couple of years. But I think for Stuart himself, if you believe confidence helps the goalies, be consistent, this will be a big step there.
All right, let's get into it. Mike Johnson from the World Hockey Championships. He joins us, brought to you by Pro-Am Sports. Fill your fan cave with the dual-signed Vinny Skinny Winnie. Visit them today in Edmonton at the corner of 128th Ave, St. Albert Trail, or online at proamsports.ca. You know what we're talking about. MJ, what's going on, buddy? How you doing, man?
What's going on? Listen, I know it's kind of hard to track the NHL playoffs. I'm over here. It's a weird time change. The Oiler game started at 2 in the morning. But I felt like when I can wake up and it's still going on, that's a bad sign when it's still happening in the morning. And I'm like, of course you guys remember, around the early 2000s, it seemed like every other night Dallas would play in a double or triple overtime game. It was always Dallas. Marty Turco, Ed Belfour, always Dallas. So I wake up, I'm like, double overtime? What is going on? Of course, it's Dallas, double overtime. It only makes sense.
Yeah, and just the path to get there last night was wild. The Stuart Skinner stops a breakaway and a second chance to start the hockey game. Dallas ties it on a bounce that they put home Tyler Seguin. Holloway has a breakaway right after that to possibly get them back on top. But then you get to overtime. And Connor McDavid, 4 minutes for high sticking. The penalty kill does it again. Then McDavid has a glorious scoring opportunity, didn't finish. And then, of course, he wins it in overtime. I don't know how you could script game one any better from an entertainment standpoint.
It's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot going on in a 2-2, 3-2 game.
Yeah.
But you're exactly right. I mean, in overtime, and I can only imagine, I know Connor's sort of unique in his position in the world, but sitting in the box for 4 minutes in overtime of game one, you would be so anxious and rattled and begging your penalty killers to bail you out, and they sure did an incredible job to get things going there. And then, that goal that was taken away, the save by Ottinger on McDavid.
Yeah.
That's one that a player like me, I would score more often than not, but I might not score every time. Because sometimes you wait too long, the stick gets there. Connor never misses those because his hands are so fast. He finds a seam. He doesn't put it into the heel of the paddle. He just tucks it 5-hole or puts it back against the grain or lifts it upstairs, whatever he has to do. So when that one was turned aside, I'm like, maybe it's not going to happen for him tonight. Maybe it's not going to be his night. But then I'll tell you what, Evan Bouchard, that look off the wall, I don't it's a nice goal. It's an overtime winner. It's a good tip. But so many defensemen would shove that back down the corner. So many. The fact that he was able to take that puck, I think Jamie Benn was coming on him. He's going to get hit and snap it right onto the tape of Connor McDavid for the tip. That was really impressive, sort of under duress and a lot going on. So impressive stuff. Now, I talked to you guys last week about this. I was sort of curious how Chris Tanev, who had done brilliantly against Eichel and against McKinnon, would do against McDavid. And at least in game one, he's already been on the ice for more 5-on-5 goals against than he was the previous two series combined against those two guys. Yep. So, maybe that shows how great he played previously or how great McDavid is or bad breaks or whatever. But that's going to be a matchup to watch because I think Dallas was counting on him to sort of be able to help slow Hyman and McDavid down, and at least in game one, he wasn't able to lock it down like he had previously.
Mike, I just wanted your thoughts more on this penalty kill. 5 for 5 last night, 18 straight kills now, and 6 consecutive double minor kills dating back to the regular season. Who or what do you kind of attribute to this thing and give the credit to? And we were talking earlier, I think now the expectation is that for a team to go up with the man advantage, you almost don't want to do it now against this Oilers kill because it's so good and it takes away 5-on-5 time. So your thoughts on the penalty kill, who or what do you kind of attribute to it, and does it ever get beaten ever again?
Yeah, no, they'll never get scored on. Ever, ever, ever. That's it. All the way to next year. No. Mark Stewart, the guy running the penalty kill out there, and he's done a really nice job with it. So that's a big part of it. So, I think it's preparation, obviously. Right? You coached up, get your game plan, get your pre-scout. You try to understand what the tendencies of the other teams are. And they're all different, right? Each unit, each team. And you have to know, okay, is their first unit, second unit, what are they trying to do? It's different. And they clearly are on the same page there. I think there's an element of any really good penalty kill is appropriately aggressive, right? If you're too passive, at some point you're going to get picked apart because the other players are really good. So you got to be aggressive when you can be aggressive, but everyone's got to be on the same page when that moment is. Because if one guy's running and pressing, but not everybody is, then you're in trouble. And if everyone's running and you shouldn't, then you're in trouble. You have to time it and execute it properly. They're doing that. Obviously, you need saves occasionally when you're down. They're going to get chances. You need saves. They're getting that. But there's also the other part of it, and I killed penalties my entire career. There is a confidence and a sort of a swagger that a penalty kill group can get when they're having success, because no one talks about, hey, how about those great penalty killers? It's always the power play guys, right? Like, you don't get, the flowers when you block a shot, or, hey, great clear off the glass. Like, nobody's going to put that on the highlight reel. But as a group, in the meeting, a little subset in the room, if you're one of the guys, the 6 forwards, the 4 defense that do it, you start to take great pride in it. And you get on these kind of runs. And you're like, you're not going to be the guy who gets scored on. So it sort of builds on itself. And right now the Oilers are cooking. And I think, the 5-on-5 play wasn't dominating at LA or Vancouver. But it's amazing. Penalty kill will keep you in games. Power play can win you games. Like, that's sort of how it goes. And I think the penalty kill has kept them in so many games that could have gone a different direction by not giving up that goal.
Man, you are right about the lack of respect for penalty killers. I'm surprised somebody hasn't started like a Twitter account for good plays on the penalty kill.
And when you have four of the leading scorers in the postseason, you got that on your side plus that PK. I mean, those are two good bookends.
It's a nice combination for sure. And we said, going into this series, you would think heading in, Jake Ottinger gives the Stars an advantage in that. I thought Ottinger was good last night. But what does it do for a team? I think Skinner's pretty level-headed anyway. But coming out of Game 6 and 7, Skinner was back in there. They won, but he wasn't necessarily tested a lot, looked nervous in Game 6 a bit. But last night, he was outstanding. It was one of his best games of the season. What does that do early in a series for a team, do you think?
Well, I mean, obviously it's going to give you confidence. It should give Stu confidence as much as anyone, right? Like, he should be building with every successful game that goes smoothly. He should feel confident. Now, I think for the Oilers generally, at this point, they would believe in Stuart Skinner anyways. Like, they've seen him be really good. They've seen him win games. So, I don't know if the team needs to be reminded, like, oh, yeah, this guy can win and he can play really well. He's done that a lot in the last couple of years. But I think for Stuart himself, if you believe confidence helps the goalies, be consistent, this will be a big step there. Now, I say that and I caution it because we've seen Stuart Skinner play really well and then quickly have a weird off game. Yeah, it happens on occasion. So, listen, you only need 3 more really good games and they'll be in the Stanley Cup final. So they're getting very close to the finish line. But I'm not guaranteeing the fact that it will be 100% smooth the entire conference final and he might not have a blip there. But you love to see a guy who, when he speaks, even when it goes poorly, I always have time for Stuart Skinner because he's sort of very much under control and honest and refreshingly candid. And I like that. And he doesn't seem to get too down on himself, and he goes right back in there, whether he's missed a game or 2 or it's the next game, and plays well. That kind of mental strength you need in a goaltender, and that kind of performance they needed last night. It was great to have because there will be more games where he will have to be good than games like Game 6 and 7 in Vancouver where he probably won't be that busy.
It was a game that they managed to get no Roope Hintz for the Dallas Stars. They're hopeful that he'll play in Game 2. We were looking at Dallas's forward group yesterday, and it looks great depth-wise without Roope Hintz. But if they do get that guy back for Game 2, how does that change things, do you think, for the Oilers in a matchup situation?
Well, I mean, Hintz has been a good playoff performer in his career, right? Like, he's been a guy, the way he skates, he gives guys trouble. And he's a pretty good two-way defenseman or forward. And I'm not, I don't know if they put him back with Robertson and Johnson. I don't know how they work their lines out when he comes back. But, he's another guy that gives the Stars flexibility where he can match up against Connor. He might be one of the few guys in the league who can sort of almost skate with Connor. You know what I mean? Like, as far as, top speed is probably pretty close to what Connor can do. But then he's also good enough that if you play offensively reckless against him, he can go the other way and score. Like, there's a nice dynamic there. Good enough to check, good enough to score. So, yeah, they'll be happy to have him back. the strength of Dallas, we know the difference, right? Edmonton has the stars. Dallas has more depth. I mean, like, that's pretty clear. And so he's another really high-end depth piece that would help Dallas maybe turn the tide and allow them to play differently. Whatever line he's on could play up against anyone he does often regardless. So, yeah, but he's got to be right. Like, I think it's his wrist, right? He got slashed on his wrist. He was going off, shaking his hand like this or whatever. So, battles, face-offs, you get around the front of the net, you got a sore wrist, guess where everyone's chopping? Right on that sore wrist. So you better make sure you're right before you come back.
MJ, before we let you go, down to the semifinals at the World Hockey Championships, Canada will get Switzerland and then Sweden. I'm looking at this and I'm going, wait, where's that United States team? The United States team that was so stacked. What happened? What happened to the United States?
Czechia and a band of grizzly veteran defensemen just locked it down, made the game so nasty and physical and rugged. Like Radko Gudas, Michael Kempny, Jan Ruta. These guys, they just clutch and grab and slash and just know exactly how to do it just enough. And then Lucas Dostal, who's a young goalie from Anaheim.
Yep.
He's the young, they have Peter Mrazek, who's way more experienced. They even Karl Vejmelka from Arizona, Utah, who's way more experienced. And yet this young 23-year-old's got the starter's job. He's been like the best goalie in the tournament. And they scored a double bank on a power play off a stick, off a chest and in. And they just shut it down. Like, they just didn't give up any good chances. And it was a defensive clinic to knock the Americans out. And another year. The last year the Americans won this tournament, guys, 1933.
Oh, boy.
It's like 91 years ago. It's hard to even imagine. So, but I'm not happy for the Americans, but for the tournament, like, having Czechia keep going is awesome. Like, the atmosphere is crazy.
Point, yeah.
Sweden, and then we'll play a very sort of defensive, passionate game. And Canada gets Switzerland, a team that was beating them in the round robin until the 5-minute Kevin Fiala kneeing penalty, where he got kicked out of the game. Canada scored 2, won the game. Like, I would not put Canada as a favorite in this game. Like it's basically a push. The two of them are very good, very similar. It's going to be a really tough game, but all good teams, all good storylines, no matter how it plays out, which is good for the last couple of days. So we'll see. Like, 2 more games for Canada. They always seem to be able to find a way in these tight games against Switzerland, but it'll be really tough tomorrow.
All right, man. Well, enjoy the rest of that tournament. Safe travels home. We'll talk to you next week.